Body butters are a fabulous place to start your formulating journey. I started with lip balms and body butters, and I made quite a lot of mistakes along the way. So I'm hoping with this video I can spare you from making some of the missteps that I made as I was getting started. Hey bees, I'm Marie from Humble Bee and Me, and today we are talking about 6 body butter mistakes most new makers, like myself a decade ago, make, and how to avoid them. The partner blog post for this video is packed with helpful links and additional resources, so I highly recommend giving it a read. It's linked in the description box below this video. Mistake number 1 is making ginormous batches of things. I can still remember the very first time I made a whipped body butter. I found a DIY on the internet that called for something like 2 cups of shea butter, a cup of cocoa butter, and a cup of jojoba oil. I diligently followed the instructions and I ended up with over a liter of body butter. This could have been fine, but this was not only my first time making this particular recipe, but it was my first time making whipped body butter at all. That particular recipe ended up being far too greasy and oily for my tastes, and I had used quite a strongly scented unrefined shea butter and an unrefined cocoa butter in it, so it had quite a strong cocoa shea scent to it, which I had then tried to drown with lavender essential oil, leaving me with a colossal amount of something that I really didn't like all that much, but I'd used a huge portion of my small ingredient stash, and oh, it didn't feel good. When I'm working on a new body butter formulation these days, I start small, usually in the 20 to 50 gram range. That is more than enough for you to get a really good feel for the body butter. It's quite a few applications, so you can become very well acquainted with its skin feel, its slip, its application, its melt point. You can get to know a formulation with just 20 to 50 grams of it. It's also a small enough amount that if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted to, it's not super heartbreaking. If you end up having to use it on your feet, you're not going to be using this 1 foot butter until 2027. And if it's so awful that you end up having to chuck it in the compost bin, it's only maybe an ounce of ingredients, unlike with my first experience, which is more like a kilo. Mistake number 2 in making body butters is improperly cooling the formulation. Butters can be quite particular about how they are cooled, and if cooled improperly, your formulation can end up being grainy or mealy or just far softer than it was supposed to be, or it can be a very fun combination of all 3. Most buttery formulations benefit from being brought to some sort of a trace, but some formulations do better with a light trace, some need a medium or a heavy trace, and then after that, some will do best if left on the counter to set up, and some need some time in the fridge or the freezer. It really depends. Determining what works best for your particular formulation is part of the formulation process. To learn more about this, I highly recommend checking out the very detailed blog and partner video I made last year on grainy body butters. It contains a lot of information about different ways to cool body butters and different ways to tackle and prevent graininess. Mistake number 3 is boring butters. And this honestly really isn't so much a mistake, it's just I want to encourage you to branch out and try new butters. Body butters are made up of mostly butters, and so it makes sense that the thing that makes up most of a formulation plays a really big role in how that formulation feels on the skin. So if you only have 1 or 2 butters to formulate with, your body butter formulations are going to be somewhat limited. Shea butter and cocoa butter tend to be the starter go-to butters, and they're absolutely lovely. That is definitely where I got started. But after a few months, I ordered some Cupuatsu butter, and oh wow, that was really exciting. Cupuatsu butter has a really unique, satiny, rich, silicone-y feel on the skin. It somehow manages to feel very nourishing without feeling heavy or especially greasy. I wouldn't call it super lightweight or fast absorbing, but it's a unique and utterly lovely butter experience, and it has been a Cupuatsu Marie love story ever since I got my first jar. I was also really excited when I first started working with mango butter because it had a lot of that gorgeous soft creaminess that I love in shea butter, but it is so much lighter and fast absorbing. As somebody who's not a fan of greasy skincare, this absolutely thrilled me. I started blending mango butter with shea butter so I could get the best of both worlds in some formulations, and you'll also find mango butter playing a starring role in many of my anhydrous formulations that I want to have a really light feel on the skin. When you go out shopping for new fancy exciting butters to try, make sure you are reading up on them, and one of the biggest things that you should read up on is what they smell like. Some butters, like unrefined Akuba butter and combo butter, have quite strong scents and sometimes also colors, and that can really limit their use. For butters like that, I simply recommend ordering the smallest possible amount for the first order so that you can give it a try. Once upon a time, I ordered half a kilo of Ukuba butter, opened the jar up and found that it smelled kind of molassesy, barbecue saucy, which wasn't awful, but it definitely was a distinctive scent that needed to be worked around, so I found the butter really wasn't all that versatile and I rarely used it. I have definitely heard from people that absolutely adore it and it pairs really nicely with scents like cedarwood and patchouli, but if you're not really a cedarwood or patchouli person, maybe that's really not your jam. So yeah, just order a small amount of butters if the description says that they have a pretty noticeable scent. Mistake number 4 is not working with fatty thickeners. And again, this isn't really so much a mistake as the thing that I really wish that I had done so much earlier, and I really want to encourage you to not wait until you've been making body butters for years before you start using fatty thickeners, because they are wonderful. Fatty thickeners like cetyl alcohol and stearic acid open up so many exciting formulating possibilities when you are creating body butters. Just 2 to 3% of stearic acid or cetyl alcohol can really raise the melting point of a body butter, and a similar amount of cetyl alcohol can really improve the slip and give the overall formulation a much more satiny, powdery feel on the skin. I've created a lot of content to teach you about fatty thickeners and what they can bring to our formulations, so I have recently done ingredient deep dives into cetyl alcohol, cetyl alcohol, and stearic acid that I recommend watching, but I also have encyclopedia entries on all 3 of these ingredients, and I've done ratio experiment blog posts on them, so you can get a feel for, what a 1-to-1 ratio of stearic acid is like, what's a 2-to-1, and so on and so forth. So all of that is linked in the partner blog post. Highly recommend checking it out. New maker body butter mistake number 5 is unconsidered oiliness. Let's bounce back to the story I opened the video with about my first ever whipped body butter. I remember being genuinely surprised at how oily and greasy and heavy the finished formulation was. I probably shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, the entire body butter was made entirely of fat, and at that point in time I'd been using a lot of neat shea butter, so I was very familiar with how shea butter feels on the skin. I knew it was a rich, heavy butter. My best guess is that some pictures of a beautiful whipped body butter sort of seduced me into thinking some sort of like magical alchemy would happen when the ingredients were whipped together, and yeah, I didn't even think about if it would be really, really oily and greasy, and it was, and that was disappointing. These days, when I'm formulating a new body butter, I am definitely thinking about how oily or greasy or rich or light or fast absorbing I want it to be, and I'm making intentional decisions to get me a final product that will be what I want it to be. There is nothing wrong with greasy or heavy body butters. It's just about doing that on purpose rather than doing it by accident. As a formulator, you want to know what you can do to make a rich body butter, a light body butter, a soft body butter, a hard body butter. You want to know what all those little knobs and dials are so that you can tune them to create exactly what you want. If you would like to learn more about greasiness in body butters and how to fix it, please check out the detailed blog post and video I shared all about this last year. And our last mistake, mistake number 6, is thinking that body butters are the be-all and end-all of skin moisturization. This is definitely more of a skincare mistake than a formulating mistake, but I do think it's relevant to this discussion. I often see messaging from the kind of more crunchy part of the DIY world that sort of talks about oil as being like a superior water. It's like super water. You might have seen marketing from small brands that talks about how their anhydrous products are really concentrated and they haven't been diluted or watered down with water. This sort of messaging positions water as being like a cheap filler, like something that's only in the formulation to bring its costs down. And so by removing it and concentrating the product is superior because it hasn't been adulterated or diluted with water. And of course it's true that water is cheaper than oils and butters, but water is also a very important part of skin health and skincare. Our bodies and our skin need water. Oil is not superior to water when it comes to moisturizing or to quenching thirst. Ugh. Oil is just really different from water, and they're both important, but they're really different. My skin improved so much when I realized the importance of hydration to skincare, When I started including lots of hydrating products like serums and toners and emulsified lotions in my skincare routine, my skin improved leaps and bounds in less than a week. Existing blemishes healed faster, I got fewer new blemishes, and my skin just felt so much more comfortable. It is unlikely your skin will get all of the hydration it needs from the water that you drink because the vascular system stops at the dermis. So your body's ability to deliver water to the epidermis isn't great. And this is where moisturizers come in. Anhydrous products can definitely help soften the skin and reduce transepidermal water loss, but unless you live somewhere really humid, chances are on parts of your body that get washed a lot, you are going to need to supplement with some topical hydration. Adding hydration to your skincare routine can take many forms. The simplest way to do it is to just apply your body butter right after you've gotten out of the shower when your skin is still wet. You could apply a hydrating mist or toner before applying your body butter, or you might find that you prefer an emulsified lotion for, say, your hands and your face, which tend to get more washing than the rest of your body, which might be a-okay with straight up anhydrous skincare. Whatever you do, I don't recommend counting on exclusively anhydrous formulations to meet all of your skin moisturizing needs, especially if you live somewhere really dry and are prone to dry, dehydrated skin. Okay, so those are the 6 body butter mistakes that I definitely made as a new maker. Did you make any of those mistakes? Did you make any mistakes that I didn't cover and you'd like to share them in the comments below to help save a fellow maker from your whoops? I'd absolutely love to read about it, so please leave it in the comments below. If you'd like to learn why your body butter is grainy, please click here, and if you would like to learn about why your body butter is melting, please click here. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!